Most men never consciously choose to become low value. They drift there slowly, through habits of complaint, excuse-making, and quiet surrender. A low-value man often believes the world is unfair, women are confusing, and life keeps happening to him rather than responding to him. Complaining feels easier than building. Blaming feels safer than taking responsibility. Yet what truly destroys a man is not rejection or failure, but the growing sense of powerlessness that comes from believing he has no control. That feeling quietly erodes his posture, his voice, his boundaries, and eventually his self-respect. When a man begins moving toward high value, the shift is subtle but unmistakable. His mouth becomes quieter. His excuses disappear. His standards become clearer, not louder. Instead of asking, "Why do they treat me like this?" he asks the harder and more honest question, "What am I allowing that makes this possible?" This mindset is uncomfortable because it removes the comfort of victimhood. High-value men are not always applauded for this change. In fact, they are often tested, challenged, or subtly punished because their stability exposes the insecurity of weaker people. Still, this is the price of growth. These signs are not about ego or superiority, but about moving from begging to be chosen into becoming the one who chooses. The first sign reveals itself the moment a woman creates distance for a needy man. Distance feels like danger. His nervous system panics. He overtexts, double calls, posts meaningless content, or performs emotionally to remind her that he exists. His self-worth collapses because it was never rooted in himself. It was borrowed from her attention. For a high-value man, distance does not destroy his inner balance. He may notice it, feel it, even dislike it, but his life does not stop. His sense of value does not fluctuate with her mood. He still trains, works, builds, and moves forward. He does not chase silence or demand clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. He understands that clarity is a behavior, not a conversation. The real question is not why she pulled back, but why her pulling back makes him lose himself. When distance from a woman causes a man to abandon his routine, his discipline, and his emotional center, it reveals that his foundation was never solid. Attraction does not die because of space. It dies because a man collapses under it. This first sign is not about pretending not to care. It is about caring without self-abandonment. And once this shift happens internally, something else begins to change in how he shows up day after day, not through dramatic gestures, but through something far more powerful and rare, which leads directly into the next sign. Many men confuse intensity with masculinity. They believe that being emotionally loud, highly expressive, or dramatically invested is proof of strength. At the beginning, they show up with overwhelming energy, constant messages, big promises, emotional highs, and fast attachment. This often feels exciting at first, but intensity without stability is not masculine presence. It is emotional volatility. Fireworks look impressive, but they fade quickly and leave nothing behind. A high-value man is not a performance. He is a foundation. Consistency is what separates men who are respected from men who are merely desired for a moment. A high-value man shows up the same way, regardless of mood, validation, or external reward. His effort is not dependent on how he feels that day or how a woman treats him in that moment. He behaves correctly even when no one is watching. He does not shapeshift his personality to match her emotions, nor does he withdraw his character when things feel uncertain. This steadiness creates something far more powerful than excitement. It creates safety. When a woman senses consistency, her nervous system relaxes. She does not feel the need to manage, test, or overanalyze him. She becomes more open, more feminine, more expressive, not because he demanded it, but because she feels grounded in his presence. Intense men often create butterflies, but they also create anxiety. Their behavior is unpredictable. One day they are deeply invested. The next they disappear or become resentful. This emotional whiplash forces a woman to stay alert rather than relaxed. A high-value man creates clarity instead of confusion. Consistency does not mean passivity. It does not mean tolerating disrespect or losing desire. It means your actions align with your values at all times. You do not love bomb when excited and withdraw when challenged. You do not become cold to punish or overly warm to secure reassurance. You remain centered. This makes your presence trustworthy. Over time, trust turns into respect, and respect sustains attraction far longer than intensity ever could. Low-value men often burn themselves out trying to be impressive. High-value men focus on being reliable. And reliability is not boring to the right woman. It is rare. When your behavior becomes predictable in the best way, people stop questioning your intentions and start responding to your standards. This consistency naturally leads to another critical shift. Once your actions are aligned and stable, you no longer feel compelled to please at your own expense. You begin to realize that saying yes to everything is not kindness, but self-betrayal. And that realization introduces the next sign, the ability to say no calmly, without guilt or anger. The ability to say no calmly is one of the clearest markers of a high-value man, not a defensive no, not an angry no, and not a no filled with explanations meant to soften the blow. Just a grounded, simple refusal that protects his peace without asking for permission. A high-value man does not feel the need to justify his boundaries at length, because his boundaries are not up for debate. They are an extension of his self-respect. Low-value men struggle deeply with this. They say yes to things they resent. They agree to plans they don't want. They tolerate behavior they dislike, all in the hope of maintaining approval. Over time, this creates internal pressure. Resentment builds silently until it explodes in passive aggression, sudden anger, or emotional withdrawal. What looks like patience from the outside is often fear in disguise, fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as difficult. When a high-value man says no, it does not come from anger or the desire to punish. It comes from clarity. His no feels like a law, not a threat. Laws are calm, predictable, and consistent. They do not shout. They simply exist. This is why guilt does not work on him. Guilt only manipulates those who doubt their own worth. When a man is comfortable with his standards, emotional pressure loses its power. This calm refusal does something important in relationships. It teaches others how to treat you without you having to lecture them. People quickly learn where the line is because it does not move. And when a boundary is stable, it creates respect, even if it creates temporary discomfort. A man who can say no without hostility is difficult to control, because control depends on emotional reactions. Saying no also preserves energy. Every unnecessary yes drains time, focus, and emotional stability. A high-value man understands that peace is not something you negotiate after you lose it. It is something you protect in advance. He does not wait until he is overwhelmed to draw the line. He draws it early and calmly. Once a man can say no without guilt, another shift naturally follows. He stops tolerating subtle disrespect just to keep connection alive. He begins to understand that love without respect is not love, but slow emotional suffering. And this awareness leads directly into the next sign, the refusal to tolerate disrespect, even when feelings are involved. One of the most painful patterns in modern dating is the man who tolerates disrespect because he's afraid of losing the woman. He laughs off comments that cut him. He excuses behavior that crosses his boundaries. He tells himself that love requires patience, understanding, and sacrifice, while quietly absorbing emotional damage. This is not strength. It is fear wearing the mask of tolerance. A desperate boy endures disrespect because he believes connection is rare and fragile. and that if he stands up for himself, it will disappear. A high-value man sees this clearly. He understands that love without respect is simply suffering with a romantic label attached to it. The moment disrespect appears, he addresses it once, calmly and directly, not with insults, not with shouting, and not with emotional lectures. He makes it clear what is not allowed around him. If the behavior stops, the connection continues. If it repeats, he detaches. This is not punishment, it is self-preservation. Detachment is misunderstood by many men. They think it means being cold, cruel, or emotionally unavailable. In reality, it means refusing to stay emotionally invested where respect is absent. A high-value man does not beg for basic decency. He does not argue someone into treating him well. He removes himself from environments that require him to shrink to stay included. This quiet withdrawal is far more powerful than confrontation, because it communicates that access to him is conditional on respect. Tolerance is often praised as a virtue, but in many men it is simply unexamined fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of starting over, fear of confirming their own insecurities. Strength is not how much disrespect you can endure. Strength is knowing when endurance becomes self-betrayal. A man who stands firm without aggression sends a clear signal. He values himself enough to walk away, even if he cares deeply. This behavior creates an interesting dynamic. People may not always like a man who enforces boundaries, but they respect him. Respect does not require affection, it requires consistency. When a man no longer tolerates disrespect, his attention becomes more valuable, because it is no longer guaranteed. And this naturally leads to the next sign. The understanding that attention is a currency that must be earned, not something given freely out of fear or hope. A high-value man understands something most men never fully grasp. Attention is a form of currency. Where you place it teaches others how to treat you. Low-value men give more attention when they are treated poorly. When a woman becomes cold, distant, or disrespectful, they respond by increasing effort, affection, and availability. In doing so, they unknowingly teach her that mixed signals and bad behavior come with rewards. Over time, this pattern drains them emotionally and reinforces dynamics that work against them. A high-value man does the opposite. He does not reward behavior he does not want to see repeated. He does not chase mixed signals or pour extra affection into someone who is withdrawing or disrespectful. His attention is not withheld as punishment, but allocated with intention. It is given where there is alignment, effort, and respect. Because of this, his attention becomes expensive, not in an arrogant sense, but in a meaningful one. It carries weight because it is not guaranteed. When a man gives his attention freely, it loses value. When he gives it selectively, it gains significance. This is why low-value men often feel emotionally broke. They spend attention where it is not appreciated, hoping it will eventually buy affection. But attention does not buy respect. It only amplifies what already exists. Disrespect multiplied by attention becomes deeper disrespect. A high-value man remains consistent when a woman is consistent. He is warm when she is respectful. He steps back when she becomes confusing. And he detaches when disrespect appears. These responses are not emotional reactions. They are aligned behaviors. He does not need to announce them or explain them. His actions communicate his standards clearly. This approach creates clarity. People around him understand that his presence is earned, not begged for. And because he does not overextend himself emotionally, he remains grounded and self-directed. His energy is preserved for what truly matters. Once a man stops wasting attention, another quality becomes visible. He becomes more reliable, not just when it is convenient, but especially when it costs him something. This brings us to the next sign. The way a man treats his word, and whether he keeps it, even when it would be easier not to. Anyone can appear loyal, disciplined, or dependable when life is easy. It costs nothing to keep your word when you feel motivated, energized, and comfortable. The true nature of a man is revealed when keeping his word becomes inconvenient, when he is tired, stressed, bored, or emotionally pulled in another direction. This is where the difference between low value and high value becomes undeniable. A high-value man treats his word as a reflection of his character, not as a flexible tool to manage perception. When he says he will do something, he does it, even when he no longer feels like it, not because he is rigid or robotic, but because he understands that discipline is choosing what you committed to long after the mood that inspired it has passed. This reliability creates real respect, not admiration based on talk, but trust rooted in experience. Low-value men often keep promises selectively. They follow through when it benefits them, when it makes them look good, or when they fear losing someone. The moment inconvenience appears, excuses follow. Fatigue becomes justification. Emotions become permission to break commitment over time. This behavior teaches others that his words have little weight, even if he speaks confidently. His inconsistency erodes credibility. Breaking promises is often framed as flexibility or self-care, but more often it is a lack of self-mastery. It means emotions are in control, not values. A high-value man is not perfect. He may misjudge, overcommit, or need to recalibrate. But when he gives his word, he either honors it or addresses it directly and responsibly. He does not disappear, deflect, or rewrite history to protect his image. Dependability is deeply attractive, not because it is exciting, but because it signals stability. People feel safer around men whose behavior aligns with their words. This safety does not create boredom, it creates trust, and trust allows attraction to deepen instead of constantly resetting. As a man becomes dependable, another shift becomes necessary. To keep his word and protect his standards, he must also learn to manage his internal world, because without emotional control, even the strongest commitments collapse. And that leads directly to the next sign: the ability to feel emotions without allowing them to control decisions. Emotional control is not the absence of emotion. It is the refusal to let emotion take the wheel. Low-value men are driven by mood. When they feel anger, they react. When they feel jealousy, they chase. When desire spikes, discipline disappears. Their decisions change with their emotional weather, which makes them easy to test and easy to manipulate. Silence provokes them. Tone shifts destabilize them. A hint of competition pulls them off center. They feel deeply, but they are led by what they feel in the moment. A high-value man feels everything too. He feels anger, jealousy, attraction, disappointment, and desire. The difference is that he does not outsource leadership to those emotions. He pauses, assesses, and chooses based on long-term consequence rather than short-term relief. Emotional control does not make him cold, it makes him grounded. He can be upset without being disrespectful. He can feel jealous without chasing. He can desire without losing structure. This dignity under pressure is what makes him difficult to manipulate and deeply respected. As emotional control strengthens, self-improvement becomes quieter. A high-value man builds even when no one is watching. He trains his body, sharpens his skills, stabilizes his finances, strengthens his mindset, and deepens his values without needing applause. He does not post to impress or grow to prove anyone wrong. He grows because stagnation is unacceptable to him. Low-value men wait for pain, rejection, or humiliation to force change. High-value men move from purpose, not pressure. This internal orientation shifts his relationship with validation. He no longer chases approval or reshapes himself to be liked. He lets outcomes speak. Results replace explanations. He would rather be respected than popular, solid than entertaining, real than impressive. Validation is a drug that keeps many men stuck. tolerating disrespect and avoiding conflict to protect their image. A high-value man chooses legacy over likes. Because of this, people feel safe around him, but they cannot play with him. He is kind without being weak, calm without being passive, peaceful without being harmless. His presence creates safety because he is stable and predictable in the right way. At the same time, it creates accountability because disrespect has consequences. Women relax into femininity around him. Men respect him. Toxic people feel uncomfortable because manipulation finds no grip. This is not about bashing women or acting cold. It is about becoming a man who does not lose himself in the pursuit of love. If you recognize even a few of these traits in yourself, you are already ahead of most men. High value is not something you claim, it is something your lifestyle proves quietly, over time. And if you want a deeper exploration of how to build this energy when you are not yet respected, that conversation can begin next.